Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back. My name is Starr and I'm a light renegade, part of a collective of Pleiadian beings bringing you information from beyond the veil. Hi everyone, hope that everyone is doing so well. Things are good over here. I feel very much in my own energy, in my own power, and yeah, just feeling pretty tip top to be honest with you. So yeah, glad to bring Rico through for us today. Before I get started, I'm really feeling called to cleanse the space, so I'm going to do that with some sound. I think that actually might just be a reminder for some of you out there to continue to be clearing your spaces, even though you might be out of shadow work at this time. You might be feeling really amazing. Just make sure to be topping up your own energy and yeah, just combating anything else that might be out there still trying to grasp at you. But welcome to those that might be new. I want to introduce Rico to you. So Rico is a representative from the Galactic Alliance, Galactic Federation of Light, and he started with us not last week, the week before, and he wants to just come forward just to explain what it's like to be a reptilian. So he described himself as a rehabilitated reptilian entity, and he started with just some basic information about him and how he was like a runner for the reptilians, and he would come to different spaces to gain information or pass products from space to space, and that was what his job was. So he came from there to the Galactic Federation and now works as part of their team. But Rico actually wants to come through me to speak today, so I don't know what he's going to talk about, but he is very funny and very cheeky, so I'm a little bit worried, to be honest with you, to bring him through because yeah, I don't know what he's going to say, but he's very excited to be here and to have a place to speak. So yeah, I think it's going to be entertaining to say the least, everyone. So if you just give me a minute, I'm going to bring Rico through. Hello everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I feel like this is my time to shine. I feel like I've always wanted to be on a stage somewhere as an actor. I really fancied myself as a bit of a Brad Pitt, I think, in my time. But thank you so much for you all being here and for witnessing this space. It's really a profound experience for me to be able to connect with so many of you like this, and I hope that my story gives you a little bit more understanding of what reptilians are and how they operate. I first of all wanted to start by saying that I do not inhabit a body anymore. I do not inhabit a vessel. I am merely a being of light, and I have been this way for quite some time. In terms of your years, I would say that I was a reptilian for at least 1,000 of those years, and that is when the Galactic Federation of Light came and took me under their wing. They could see that I was not happy, they could see that I was wanting something more, and I myself hadn't become aware of just exactly what I was doing, but I was slowly stepping away from that vile regime. And I say this with a lot of love in my heart because I know that many of those beings do not have a choice of who they are, what they are doing, and what they experience. And this is what I would like to talk about today. So my experience as a reptilian, I did not remember being a child. As you all would know, you remember being small, you grow up, and then you are what you are today. I did not have any recollection of being a child. I wasn't sure if I was even a child to begin with. And this was something that I wasn't aware took its toll on me quite a lot. I would witness other children in the spaces and see just how hard done by that they were, just how much they were pushed into certain areas of work, combat, or silence to just be in the vicinity, not speaking. It was very disencouraged to have a voice as a reptilian. You do not have your own voice. You do not speak for yourself, you do not think for yourself. And I was aware that I felt less than. I felt half of a being. I didn't understand who I was, or what, quite frankly, what I was doing a lot of the time. And I think this is what was stirring inside of me for many, many years. And after working for some time with the Galactic Federation of Light, I now know that it took me a very long time to wake up to who I truly was at my heart center and as a being that is connecting to Source. I think something that I would like to share here is that because all beings are a part of Source, at some point they awaken to being something more than they actually are, something more than they are allowed to be shown. And this happens for all beings. What you might consider to be extraterrestrial and otherwise. As you have awakened yourself, beings like myself have the opportunity to awaken to a deeper layer of understanding Source and different dimensions. Although we know a lot, some of us are from very restricted areas in different solar systems, different universes, different planets, and we aren't told the truth. And that's exactly what happened to me as a reptilian. So I didn't know that I was ever a child. I felt like all I could remember was being what I was, and this was a being that didn't have a life. I didn't have what you might call friends. I didn't have a source of family. I was just merely a person that, well, a being that would run from place to place, situation to situation, collating data and moving products. And this was all I could remember for the longest time. I was encouraged to not communicate with any other beings at that time unless I needed to. And I was given strict instructions on who to communicate with. And that was all. And, you know, I would live in something that you might call barracks, what would be kind of like army institutionalized spaces. So there were only very few around me that I could connect with, and it wasn't enjoyable. I didn't understand how I came to be. I didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing, but I just continued to do so. Something in me just felt like I had to. And it wasn't until I started to look around in the other spaces that I visited, and this was completely discouraged. My training was, you know, you do your job and then you come home. This is all that matters, is where you're from, your home, and this space. But at that time, nothing in that space felt like home. At that time, nothing in that space felt like something that I could truly connect to. I didn't feel like I knew anyone from my space, and people that I would call my commanders, you know, they weren't the friendliest of people, and they very much didn't feel like home to me, or they made no strong connection to wanting to get to know who I was as a being, as a soul's essence, or just entirely as anything that is existing in this plane of existence. They had no regard for my feelings or how I wanted to be. It was just drilled into me that this is a job that I needed to do, and that was all. So when I would go and visit on other planes of existence, on other planets, I started to look around. Slowly but surely, I was starting to see that there was something more out there to be experienced, and I could feel it. I could feel it coming in, and it felt very uncomfortable to me to begin with, to be engaging with others. And I feel like there was something, well, I know that there was something placed around me as an entity to stop me from feeling emotions like other entities do, and other sensations apart from just this numbness that I felt. I felt very numb to my existence and to the world around me. I felt very cold and very rigid, but I could see that other beings move with what I would consider to be fluidity, or a lightness in their step. I felt very solid and grounded, and something that just didn't move with ease. I felt this in my physical being even. We are trained to be strong beings, and that is all. There is no room to be flexible. It is only one way, and that way alone, and only reptilians matter. And this is what I was taught. This is what was drilled into me day in, day out. There would be things that would be stated to us every day as a reminder of who we are, why we were important per se, but this was not something that resonated. We were important as part of a collective of powerful beings, we were told. We were the most powerful out there, and we had to stay this strong. We had to stay this ready for battle. It always felt like we were hunkering down for something bigger, something more expansive. And there was a lot of spaces where I saw many, many beings of my own kind killed time and time again in combat. We would go out and I would witness galactic wars, galactic battles happening time and time again. And we weren't entirely told exactly why those were happening. We were just told that this was the way, and people were trying to infiltrate our home and our spaces and trying to take control over us. And I now see that this couldn't be any further from the truth. The more time that I spent in other planets, I understood that there was a lot of peace in other spaces that we just had no idea of. There was not a level of peace anywhere where I'm from. And I'm from the Draconian star system, so I was very much in the epicenter of it all. And at that time, there was, much like what is going on today, there was still battles happening. There were still fights for different spaces of land, different spaces of what you would consider to be matter, on places that we would differentiate as land to you. And there was always a fight to be had. There was never peace. There was never calm. There was always just how to obtain more. And there was a ranking system. So the more missions you would go on, the more you would be out in the field, the more ranking that you got, the higher you got in the ranks, and the more power that you got. But that power was over other people. If you made it high enough in the ranks, you got to order other people around. And this was something that really did not pique my interest at all. I felt very dissatisfied where I was in my spaces. And as I said, the more I started to venture out onto different planets, I could see that they were living in peace. They were living in harmony. They were living in spaces of understanding with each other. And it was trained into me to not look another being in the eye. So whenever I went to another planet, unless I was specifically assigned to be connecting with someone in some way, I would have to look down at the floor. And there was a veiling that would happen a lot of the time. So other beings couldn't even see who I was or why I was there. There would be a specific a specific entity that would know who I was and why I was there, and they would give me specific information. Or sometimes, a lot of my times, I was just there as a cloaked being, so people could not see that I was there, but I was there to gain information on certain spaces and places and things that were happening in other solar systems, to take that back as information back to my planet. So a lot of the time, I was not able to be witnessed as a being. I was not able to branch out into understandings other than being very numb and, as I said, very rigid. So when I started to tilt my eyes up and see and look out into the world and see other beings enjoying their life and doing work that felt worthwhile, I could see them, that they were interacting with what you would call plant life, or they were interacting with children and smaller beings of their own kind in such a way that felt very foreign to me. For the longest time, I just observed, and I didn't understand what they were doing. And I think I thought to myself, what is that? I actually asked, what is that? What is happening? Why is that happening? Why don't we do things like that? When I would come home and I would see that they were just beings handcuffed, walking around constantly, or they were screaming, there was bloodshed, there was, always just talk of order, rigidity, structure, planning. There was an order to the day, and you stick to that order. You do not fall out of line. And it became very, very tiresome to me. I began to understand that this was not the way to be, and I just felt this intuitively in my knowing. And after so long of just witnessing other people, I started to want to engage with other beings, and I would listen in. I would try and listen in to their conversations, and this was something that I had to do secretly. So I figured out a way where I could stay in my own energy, but pierce my hearing out to the peripherals and sort of go outside of myself. And that's when I realized that I was in a bubble of my own energy, and this was something that I later come to realize had been placed over me. So what you would consider to be the hive mind, I managed to find a way to bend myself out in at least as much as my hearing, my the rest of my being was where I was, but my hearing could make its way out of this hive mind, and I would bring that feeling back into myself using my hearing. And from what the Galactic Federation have told me is that that was what was seeping into my heart space, into my soul, and into my knowing. And the more that I did that, the stronger that I became to be able to start to feel truly into what other beings were experiencing, and that made me want to experience that too. I started to be able to differentiate between different layers and different understandings of frequency, and I realized that we are very stuck in one type of frequency. As reptilians are very stuck and very rigid, and it is just a base tone of anger, it is a base tone of savagery, it is a base tone of things that seem extreme emotions everywhere else, extreme frequencies, and things that you just do not want to be a part of. It's very, very dense where I'm from, and the energy, you cannot miss it. And I think a lot of you have experienced this cloud coming over you, and this is the reptilian energy seeping into your spaces, into your places, and you become very aware of it. It's an energy that makes you want to recoil, and I think that's what it feels like. I think that the reptilian energy feels like a recoiling, like you're ready just to snap out and just to spite and spint at anyone. And that wasn't me. I just knew that something wasn't right. I wasn't where I was supposed to be, and it just didn't feel like home to me. So I've been very grateful to be able to branch out, and that someone managed to see me. And this was a being a very, very long time ago, and now this is going to be a full circle moment for this vessel here, because it was actually a Pleiadian. A Pleiadian was the first being to meet my eyes, and was the first being to see me and see that something was wrong, and understand that I was trying to communicate in a way that I didn't know how. And they started to understand that there was something else happening. There was something else happening where I'm from that wasn't okay. And this started the breakdown of something in the camps of the reptilians, because I think for a very long time a lot of beings weren't aware of exactly what we were doing, why we were there, why we were interacting in any way at all. And they thought that we had a lot more understanding of our own capacity as separate beings. I don't think they understood just quite heavy this hive mind was. And I started to communicate with this being time and time again, and we started to have an understanding of each other. And this is all happening energetically. This was not something that I could overtly do, because that would have been understood in my frequency, and this would have been something that would have made me just be highlighted to those that are of my kind, that I was up to no good. And yes, they would consider it to be up to no good to be engaging with any other being whatsoever. So I spent time trying to understand and figure out how I could communicate without changing my base frequency, and that started with my hearing. And I was very grateful that I figured this out for myself, and there is always a way. This is something I think that my race hadn't anticipated, is that the darkness cannot always win, and they hadn't anticipated the understanding of that they are part of something larger than themselves, and that they might be backwards, that they might be the ones that are living incorrectly. They truly believe that their way is the only way, and that's the way that makes sense to them, so they just continue to do that. So I was a very great asset to come over to the Galactic Federation of Light when I did. This was very much an understanding that I was told that they hadn't been able to get to a being quite like me as closely as they had wanted to before, and I was one of the first of my kind to be branching out and understanding that there was more out there, and doing this of my own accord. I think there have been some I know there have been some reptilians that have been targeted with different types of frequencies to break them out of their bind, and this did work. But I was one of the first of my kind to break free from the regime and see that there was more to be understanding, to be living, and to be experiencing. And I wanted to share this today because I wanted to let you see how there is a mirroring happening where you are, and you awakening to something deeper inside of yourself and choosing to step away out of the paradigms that no longer serve you. And you must be very proud of yourself and who you are and why you've chosen to be here at this time, because you've chosen a time of great change. You've chosen a time of great expansion, but also an expansion of your own deeper soul and your own understanding as a being. So don't just see yourself as one-dimensional, and know that you have many different faculties that you can bring to the forefront now to be expanding of your own accord. So tune into that energy of what is making you feel alive at this time, what is calling to your heart for a deeper investigation or expression or understanding, because that is you truly coming back to yourself and to your source at such a deeper level. And this is an innate knowing, so this is your soul calling out to you. Many of you here are just on an expansive journey, are just on a journey of exploration, and many of you, just by being here, you are fulfilling your deeds, your needs as a light being, and you are just here just to help yourself expand and experience something different, experience something that hasn't been done before in this specific way. And there has been many different executions of trying to raise the frequency of a human being, but not in such a way as we are all doing right now. So remember that too. This is something very new to many beings, and some of you that have incarnated for many lifetimes. This is going to be very different from other times too, because this is a time when the earth is ready to raise her frequency to something that has been before, but in a very different way. And you are supposed to be bringing, how do I want to word this, a lot of your, much more of your human understanding forward too, in some spaces for where we are right now, and allowing yourself to explore that too, because when you are of a different energy and entity at soul, you vibrate at such a different frequency. The frequencies that a human can interact with and manipulate is a lot different to being a reptilian or an ET of a specific kind, because you all have a very similar frequency and you experience things in a very direct and universal way with each other. And correct, that is a higher level of frequency because we are all connected to source, but that does almost make it in a way of being monotone to some degree. So to have the capacity of the emotions that you have as a human being, and then to bring in a light essence to that too, and a crystalline energy, it is very, very powerful. And that is why a lot of beings are absolutely clamoring over themselves to be where you are at this time, to be engaging in life right now. So to those that may be feeling disheartened, know that you are very powerful, you are very multifaceted, and there is a lot for you to explore and experience this lifetime. And this is only the beginning, so enjoy where you are and enjoy your spaces of freedom, because I will tell you, as a being that was not free for a very long time, it was very painful, it was very dark, it was very cold. I didn't even know how cold I was as a being. I think it wasn't until I was really connecting with a Pleiadian that I understood that I was very peculiar in my ways, and reptilians are very peculiar in their ways, and they have a very strange way of being, is all that I can quite comprehend to make it make sense to you. They're very different from a lot of races, because there is not a lot of light where they are, and this makes for very peculiar behavior and experiences. And this will be something that I will go into at a later date and try and bring a little bit of humor to some spaces. I very much enjoy the lighter energies, and I'm very grateful to have a platform to speak and to engage with you in this way. So thank you everyone for being here, and I will leave you here for today. I think that might be enough, and I'm just very grateful that you all are continuing this path and continuing to expand your knowledge and your diversity of understanding of different beings. It is very essential to your growth and where you are, and communicating with others. I would like to stress just speaking with others, engaging with others where it feels safe, but also spaces where you know you are safe and someone might need your help too. That is also essential on this path, to help others that you see and know need help too. That is a way to engage and lighten your energy and feel that oneness that everyone is craving right now. So tap into your oneness, everyone, because it is very much everything and all a lot of us beings were craving for a very long time that we didn't have access to. I thought that I was very alone, and it felt like that where I was from. So continue to be engaging with those that you love and that you care about, and I will be back very soon. Take care, everyone. So that was Rico, everyone, for today. He's so sweet and yeah, absolutely hilarious. I can't help but just want to crack up whenever I feel his energy. And he was on best behavior today. I energetically told him to behave. So yeah, hopefully going forward we can have some more light-hearted conversation with him. And I think he just wanted to introduce himself as in person, he kept saying, but as a being. That's because it's being filtered through my energy, so apologies everyone, but as his being and his self. And I think he's going to share a lot of things that might help us understand the reptilians a little bit deeper and help us to understand how different they are from a lot of races. And I think this is something that gets missed time and time again. There's a lot of them that don't even know who they are, what they are, and why they exist. They're not allowed to feel this oneness and this connectivity that we do too, you know, plants, animals, children, that type of thing. That is not what happens on their realm. And it makes a lot more sense why they behave the way that they do when you start to come to that understanding. So I'm looking forward to more coming through from Rico. And yeah, I think he wants to come forward each time as his being through me. So I'm excited for that too. Also a little bit dubious because he's definitely, just cheeky. So yeah, I think we're in for some interesting conversations with him. But that's all for today, everyone. I hope that you all are having a great day, evening, afternoon, wherever you are, and I'll be back very soon. Take care.